begin each day. So one of those things is the props that you can have handy if you have them. If you don't, there's alternatives. So if you don't have a yoga belt, you could use a dyna band, a tie. Sometimes you can hold on to your clothes. A leather belt might not have enough give, but you could always try it. But if you have a cloth belt, that would be ideal. If you don't have blocks, you can use books, a jug of vinegar or Javex or something like that. If you don't have a Zafra cushion or a bolster, you can use blankets, and it's always good to have a blanket handy if you can anyway, and that way you can use it for padding. So we'll begin as usual, just coming down to our mat. So I usually recommend lying down to begin and end. It just helps you to kind of relax your body a little bit. If you have a bolster or even a chair or pillows or blankets, you can always put them underneath your knees. You can use blocks if you wish. I don't love having a blanket under my head, but some people prefer it. I'd actually prefer to be on the mat, but listen to your body. That's the most important thing in yoga. So let your knees fall together and rest together if your back is tired or sore, or if it's uncomfortable to straighten your legs. Or if you wish, you can straighten the legs and let them be about mat width apart or a little bit wider, and arms comfortably away from you. Palms face up, just so that your shoulders can ease a little bit more. If you're wearing glasses, you can remove them and put them to the side. Or you can choose to sit with me if you prefer for beginning and ending meditation and relaxation. Okay, so pick your position, get comfortable. Again, if you're wearing glasses, maybe remove them. And just close your eyes if you're comfortable, or let your gaze be soft. So from here, just taking a moment to settle in and be a little bit fussy. Make sure you're really comfortable. Just coming down to the mat comfortably, or if you're on your seat, perhaps having a cushion or pillow or blanket underneath you, just to allow your hips to tip a little bit more forward. And that just helps you maintain a nice straight or flat back as you sit up nice and tall. Or if you're lying on your mat, allow your body to release into the support of the earth. Just taking a moment here to settle in. Coming into your breath. Coming into your body. Giving yourself permission for this time to rest, to breathe, to pause, to just be in this moment, to let there be nothing else. We're noticing our breath without judgment. Maybe we rushed to the mat today. Maybe our breath is still a little bit fast. Maybe we were already relaxed. And our breath is already calm and slow. Just checking in without judging ourselves, our breath, or where we're at, but to just notice. Try to let your breath just come and go easily. Perhaps there's an invitation to breathe in through your nose and fill your belly. And even sigh the breath out as you breathe out through your mouth. And really relax your belly back in your body and let everything go. You can make noise if it helps. Just taking a nice deep breath in through your nose and then sighing it all out. Making noise, let it go. Let the day go, let the week go. Try to just be here in this moment with this breath. Try to let there be nothing else in this moment. Just this. Taking your time here to rest, to breathe. And thinking of setting an intention for your practice today. And gratitude is something that can be really difficult when we're having a hard time. But that's almost when it's the most important. I know sometimes people say, just name 5 things that you're grateful for. If that seems out of reach, pick one thing. Pick one thing that you're grateful for. Maybe just gratitude for being able to take some time for yourself to practice today. Or for the roof over your head, or the food in your belly. Or your heartbeat. Or this breath. How can you bring gratitude into your practice today? And if that doesn't resonate with you, again, it's no big deal. There's no judgment here. Maybe it's to be with your breath for the practice. Maybe it's to try to smile as you hold a pose for 1 or 2 more breaths, even if your muscles are talking to you. Whatever resonates with you for today. As you rest and breathe here for a few more moments, taking a nice breath in through the tips of the toes all the way to the top of the head, and maybe having a yawn or a stretch, beginning to bring some awareness back into the body, maybe wiggling the fingers and the toes, whatever feels best for you. And if you've come to a seat with me for the beginning of your practice, perhaps come back down to the mat now. And from here, we'll just begin to warm up the body a little bit before we ask it to do some work. So when you're ready, once you've wiggled your fingers and your toes and you've yawned and you've stretched and moved in any way that feels right, eventually we'll exhale 1 knee towards our chest. And then just draw small circles on this, just drawing some circles with the ankle in both directions. And then circling the knee on the ceiling, letting the knee work right in the hip socket. If your back is fine and you want to do both legs at the same time, that's okay. But if you wish, maybe just take it gently and slowly today, just working 1 leg at a time, 1 ankle at a time, and working in both directions. And when we circle in our hips, we want to try not to rock and roll everywhere, right? I'm obviously exaggerating, but try to keep the movement right in that hip socket to get that synovial fluid moving. And if the joints speak to you, that's not so great. If we have pain in our joints, we want to back off. Pain in the muscle for using it, juicy stretches are good. Pain in yoga, not so much, especially in the joints. All right, so from here, we'll exhale arms to the ceiling, just drawing a couple circles on the ceiling with our wrists. Working in both directions with both hands, and then eventually bringing our hands to our elbows. Again, my arms are resting in my shoulder sockets, and I'm just placing my hands on my elbows as I draw my circles. Just getting the synovial fluid moving in the shoulders, lubricating those joints before we ask them to work. So working in one direction, working in the other, and then slowly come back to center. From here, we'll let the arms gently fall to one side. Again, I'm not pushing or pulling on the arms. I'm just letting the weight of my arms help me stretch a little bit. Still breathing. On an exhalation, I'll come back to center and come all the way over to the other side. Breathing there for a moment. One side may be tighter than the other. That's okay, that's normal. Eventually come back to center and then try to see if the arms will come towards the forehead. If you need to let go of the elbows, you can. Try to make sure you're on your body or the floor. So maybe you can rest on your forehead comfortably, maybe you can rest on the mat comfortably, but you need to let go of the arms a little bit. Maybe you need to like completely let go of the arms, and that's okay. Make sure your shoulders are in a happy place. I'm cheating a little bit because I have a blanket behind me, so it's making the floor closer. So listen to your body. And if we spend a lot of our day working, perhaps at a desk, we're probably tight in our chest and our shoulders. This might be a nice way to just stretch that out. On an exhalation of your belly back, slowly bring the arms back up. Maybe a couple of circles in each direction, and then shake that out, let that go. From here, we're going to exhale our right knee to our chest, and then bring our ankle onto our opposite thigh. We're going to open and close the garden gate a couple of times. So just inhaling to let the knee fall away, exhale to let the knee come towards you. Just back and forth a couple of times, just to lubricate that hip a little bit more. If it feels comfortable for you, exhale your belly back and float your legs towards you. Now, for me, I'm not flexible enough at the moment to reach and clasp my hands behind this leg. But if you can clasp behind the down leg, please do so. If that's not comfortable, you can even just float in space using your core to help you keep the legs up. Make sure that your feet are, especially the top one, is flexed because you want to protect your knee and you want to be right in a straight line there, okay? From here, maybe you're holding on to the top leg instead. Again, I'm just touching, I'm not really pulling, or the down leg, or both, whatever feels good for you, or your hands, or you can use your belt. Eventually exhale and slowly release. Let that go. Maybe windshield wiper your legs a couple of times, and then switch. So I've crossed my left ankle this time over my thigh on my right side, and I'm going to open and close that garden gate a few times. Inhale to open, I make my belly big, I expand it. Exhale, I close, and I bring my belly back. So working with your breath. Lubricating that joint a little bit more, and then if it works for you, if it works for your back, there should be no back pain. Exhale your belly back, float your legs up, and for me, I'm even tighter on this side, so I can really barely reach. Because what I don't want to see is this or rounding, just so that you can reach the leg. I'd rather you stay put and just stretch the legs. Breathing here, giving your abs some work as well. Shoulder blades roll down your back. Eventually let that go. Windshield wipering the knees a couple of times. Maybe shake that out, whatever feels good. All right, from here, this time we're going to cross our legs one completely over the other. If this is enough for you, then you can just stay here. We're going to take this into a gentle twist. From here, I'm just going to start to gently tip. So I've got my right leg over my left, and I'm tipping towards the left, just a little bit, just to feel a bit of a stretch. If you feel like you want to come all the way down, you can. Just really listen to your back. I don't want anyone having back pain. Twists are good for your back, but at the same time, they can also challenge your back. So you really need to listen. Couple of breaths here. Exhaling, come back. Release. Windshield wiper or shake. And switch. So again, crossing, I basically have no space between the thighs. I'm crossing one thigh completely over the other. And I'm just tipping. So this time I have my left knee over my right, and I'm tipping to the right. Again, if you want to come all the way down to the floor or the mat, you can. But listen to that back. Your arms should be below your shoulders. So if they're up higher, please move them back down. Breathing here. Do those nice juicy stretches, no pain. Just do juicy stretches. Then coming back to center on an exhale. Again, shake that out, let that go. And this time we'll cross and we'll lift. So I've switched legs. I've got my left leg crossed completely over my right. Exhale my belly back and lift the knees. So again, I'm working my abs here. I'm getting a bit of a stretch here. Only stay as long as it feels good. Couple of breaths. And slowly release. Shake that out, windshield wiper. And then switch that up. So again, crossing the left over the right. On an exhalation of your belly back. Lifting up. Using those core muscles. Breathing here. And then slowly release and switch. And shake out. From here, we'll come back to Supta Baddha Konasana, which we did last day, I believe. So basically, I bring my soles of my feet together and my knees fall apart. My shoulder blades roll down my back. Again, if you need support underneath the knees, you can place a block underneath each knee, or a blanket or pillow. From here, we're going to bring our arms towards the ceiling. And then we're going to give ourselves a hug with one arm on top. So right now I've got my left arm completely over my right, so my elbows are lined up, essentially. If the legs become uncomfortable at any time, please bring them out. So you don't have to stay. You can always come in and out of a pose. Eventually opening up and crossing the arms the other way. So give yourself permission. If you need to come out with the legs, come out with the legs. And then you can always come back in when it's enough. Eventually, slowly release the arms, release the legs, maybe even help them up if you need to. Shake that out, let that go. And then from here, we'll bring our right knee towards our chest and exhale, lengthen our down leg along the mat, our left leg. Or vice versa, if you have your other knee to your chest. Again, working with your breath as you breathe in, your knee comes a little bit away. As you breathe out, it comes towards you. And this is a great stretch for you if you spend a lot of time either sitting or if you do a lot of work with the legs, so lots of walking or running. Seems a little silly, but both activities tighten up our legs. And this also helps to stretch out the low back as well. Eventually exhale both knees into the chest and switch. Again, that down leg is standing up, so both feet are flexed. I'm working with my breath. As I inhale, I give room for my belly. My leg can move away. As I exhale, my belly gets smaller and my leg can come towards me. Couple more breaths. Exhale both knees into your chest. Have a gentle rock from side to side. Head, neck, shoulders, everything comes with you. And then in your time, roll to your right side for a breath or two, using your arm as a pillow. And then use your arms to bring you up to a seated position. And then we'll come right into all fours. And we'll do our cat-cows or our 4 cats. And maybe even adding a dog child. So just a quick reminder, table pose, hands under shoulders, knees under hips. When I come to cat, the movement starts in my hips. So as I exhale, my tail looks down, my back comes up, my head comes down. As I inhale, my tail looks up, my back comes down, my head comes up. I come to neutral, and then I look at my bum and my bum looks at me. But again, the movement always starts in my hips. As I inhale, I come to center and exhale to the other side. And let's work with that one more time before we add the dog. So head down on an exhale, tail curls, back up, head down. Inhale, curl, tailbone up, back comes down, head comes up. Come to neutral, and then exhale, looking to one side. Bum looks at you, you look at the bum. Wrapping your body around a pole. Inhale, center, exhale to the other side. If you need at any time, rest in child's pose. And if you're ready this time, let's come straight to dog. First dog of the day, so front table pose. Press your weight into all of your fingertips, not just your wrists. Curl your toes. Shoulder blades roll down your back, elbows look forward. On an exhalation of your belly back, use your core to lift you up. And because this is the first dog of the day, maybe you're bike pedaling, maybe you're shaking your head, moving your shoulders, moving your hips. Take your time to move around in dog and eventually find your first dog of the day. It's just an invitation of the heels to the ground. That doesn't mean that they're going to get there. Making sure the knees are bent, elbows are not locked, shoulders are let go, head is let go. Breathing in your dog. Beautiful dogs. Eventually curling up, back down, bending the knees. Bring the toes together, widen the knees, walk the hands forward, bring your forehead to the mat. If the mat and the forehead don't meet, stack your hands, your fists, or place a blanket or a block underneath your forehead to bring the mat to you, and have a couple of breaths in child's pose. At least 3 nice long deep breaths. When you're ready, coming back up, and perhaps if you need to, padding your knees. Again, remember there's no pain in yoga, okay? So anything that we're doing is just an invitation. So if anything hurts your joints, you have to stop. You can always modify. You might be more flexible than me or less flexible, but it doesn't matter. It's all about you and your body, okay? So we're gonna start with square lunge from, so when we come from table, basically when we do our base poses, if I come onto my knees, I'm almost in Tadasana or table on my knees without the hands. And then Tadasana up top here. Okay, so nice and long and tall in your spine. I'm gonna come to a square lunge. So I have my right foot forward, my left knee back. It doesn't matter which side you do first. I just want to show you first. So you're gonna sit up nice and tall here. So square lunge can already feel a bit wobbly, and that's okay. If you focus on squaring your hips, so think about bringing your right foot or your right hip back and your front left hip forward. And that just helps you to square them off a little bit. You may already feel a stretch here, and that's okay. If you're comfortable, you can start to sneak that front foot forward a little bit, and then start to exhale to come forward. So nothing in my upper body is changing. I'm just coming into a forward lunge. So I'm stretching the back leg back, my hip flexor, right? And my front knee is squared off. So I have this, my front knee is facing forward. I can still see my toes. My upper body is the same. And then from here, exhale, and I'll just come back. And I'm gonna sit back into a hamstring stretch. You can always use your blocks here if you need a little bit more support or if you need to be higher up. Okay, if it's too much of a stretch for the hamstrings. Again, if you can though, you're sitting on your heel and then perhaps coming a little bit forward. Still squaring off your hips. So I'm still thinking about my left hip coming forward and my right hip coming back. Breathing here, and then I can come back up. So I'm back into that square lunge, and then I switch. So again, I'm almost in Tadasana, but I'm on my knees, or I'm in table pose on my knees in Tadasana up top. From here, I start in square lunge. So in square lunge, everything's square. Again, this might feel wobbly. Make sure that your legs are train tracks, not monorail. If you're monorail, then you're going to be even more wobbly. Okay, so give your hips some room to move. Again, thinking about squaring off those hips. So the front leg, you're thinking about the hip coming back. The back leg, you're thinking about the hip coming forward, just to square off. Remember those headlights on our hip bones when we do warrior one. So the hips are almost in a warrior one position, if you will. And then from here, you're going to walk your front foot forward a bit. If you need to, you can take the back knee back a little bit. And then everything the same in the upper body, but the lower body moves, and I can still see my toes, my front knee is bent. I'm nice and long and tall in my spine. Breathing here, feeling that nice stretch in the hip flexor. And then I exhale, I sit back, and I come to that hamstring stretch. Again, if you want your blocks, you can have your blocks, you can be up higher. If you can sit on your heel and then fold forward, you can feel free to do that. I'm not locking my knee here, so the leg might look straight, but I'm not locking. It's still soft. Still thinking about bringing that front hip a little bit back, the back hip a little bit forward to keep the hips square. Eventually coming back, letting that go. Coming back to the first side, and we'll add to that. So from square lunge, coming forward, and then we can add the arms and come into a bit of a back bend. So just like we do for extended Tadasana, except now I'm just in a forward lunge instead. Breathing here. Slowly release the arms. And then we'll bring that into a forward bend. So I'm going to bend forward and think about getting close to the mat. And maybe I bring my back foot back a little bit more and come back to more of a square lunge. From here, if you want to challenge yourself, you can try to take if my right foot is forward, my right hand, and bring it behind you. Take the left hand back and try to grasp both hands. If you can't, you can just touch the body. If you really want to challenge yourself, you can either be in a bind and come up, or just come up from the floor and then try to bind. Breathing here. So we're bringing twisting into balancing, into lunging all together. When it's enough, slowly release. Back. Shake that out. We'll come back to the other side. So again, this time I'm coming forward, bringing the arms up. If you wanted to challenge yourself here, you could come up just on your off the knee if you wanted. Breathing here. Nice back bend. When it's enough, maybe slide the foot forward or back this time before we come back down. Exhale, coming down. So if you weren't sure what I meant by binding, and I'm not able to bind anymore, I come around and try to hold my hands together. You could use your belt if you wanted. So if you wanted to pretend that you could bind, could do that. Just by coming down and then taking the belt instead. And then if you wanted to from here, and I'm not going to do this while I'm bound, then you could come up. And if you wanted to bind there, you could. I'm not doing that. I was like, why is that so easy? I'm not doing it. That's why. Breathing here. When it's enough, coming back down. And it might be nice from here to come into downward dog. Just shake everything out. So roll the shoulder blades down the back, curl the toes, lift up. Maybe by pedaling your feet or shaking up the body. Whatever feels good, wagging your tail, shaking your head. Couple of nice deep breaths in downward dog. And then from here, walking your hands to your feet or your feet to your hands, coming into forward bend, wherever that is for you. Maybe you use your blocks. Maybe you're okay on the floor. Inhale up to a halfway lift. Exhale to fold. Bend your knees, engage your belly. Inhale all the way up. Slowly, one vertebrae at a time. Let your head be the last to come. Let that go. All right. Hopefully we're feeling warmed up. Please take a sip of water whenever you need. So last day we did some of the poses that are part of Sun Salutations. So we'll just go over those and then we'll add that up for Sun Salutations. So we did a forward bend on the wall or into the room. So you can have your blocks handy or a piece of furniture or a wall. So I'm lucky I have all of those things. So you can have a wall, a couch here that's not going to move, or have my blocks. So let's just come to Tadasana before we go anywhere else. Maybe spreading out the toes, placing the feet down, maybe closing the eyes, and just coming to mountain pose. Standing up in mountain pose. Being with your breath. Maybe at the end of your exhalation, you feel like you grow a little taller. Maybe not, that's okay. Just being with your breath in this moment. Checking in with the body. Checking in with the breath. Eventually opening your eyes and letting that go. So we'll come to the top of our mat into Namaste. So like we did last time, we went to extended Tadasana, which we just did on our lunge. So let's come to that as our first pose. Have your blocks or your furniture handy. Just gonna switch. So from here, I'm gonna bend my knees, inhale all the way up, extended Tadasana. So in extended Tadasana, I'm just bending the thoracic spine or the upper back as if I was bending it over a chair. We can easily bend the lumbar spine. We want to focus on bending the thoracic spine here. On an exhalation, I bend my knees. I come forward into forward bend. Maybe I'm using my blocks or my wall or my furniture to keep a nice flat back. Or you can reach, if you can reach the floor. You're going to inhale up to a halfway lift. So maybe I just come to my thighs if I'm using a prop. Exhale to fold. And we're going to come straight into our lunge that we just did. Our square lunge. Okay, so if you need that blanket, please use it. If you need that prop, have it handy. So from square lunge, I'm going to place both hands on the mat. You're going to exhale, curl up to be in high lunge. My hands are going to be on either side of my front leg. And I can bend, make sure this back knee is still working, so it's still bent. Exhale my belly back and float up into my high lunge. Or basically warrior one, but on my toes. From here, I'm going to slowly come back down. Drop the back knee. And maybe I bind again. So maybe I take my belt into my hand and I place it over around my back and I hold on to one side so that it's coming through the leg on the other side. Coming down to hold on to that. Or maybe I'm just holding my body, or maybe I come up first and then I see if I can bind. Okay, so adding that pose that we did to our mini sun salutation here. Breathing here. I mean, eventually you're going to be coming up into more of a twist if you could bind. Breathing there, slowly bringing the hands back down, bringing the knees back down. And then stepping back. Option to add a flow here. Or if you wish, you can rest in child's pose for a breath or two. So if you're adding a flow, what we're doing here is we're coming into a plank. You can always be in plank on your knees. That's okay. Either way, you're going to exhale and lower down slowly. Slide the hands forward to come into a bit of an upward puppy or a mini back bend. From there, you're curling your toes, rolling your shoulder blades down your back, exhale your belly back, and float up into downward dog. Breathing there. This is your rest pose for sun salutations. But if you want a more restful pose, you can always rest in child's pose. Okay. So from downward dog, if it works for you, stepping your right foot up between your hands from dog, otherwise coming to the knee first. Coming into your high lunge, and then your upward lunge. Slowly release. Again, grabbing your belt if you wish. Coming into the bind on the other side. If you wish, perhaps step up first and then try to bind. Maybe you're using your belt. Maybe not. Opening into that twist if it's comfortable. Maybe even gazing at the ceiling. Breathing there. Slowly release. Rest in child's pose if you wish. Or you can take another flow. So if you're doing a flow and you know how to do it, you go for it. Otherwise, perhaps you're coming into plank or on your knees. Coming into chaturanga, so bending the elbows back to come all the way down. Sliding the hands forward into an upward puppy or a mini back bend. Sliding the hands back under the shoulders. Rolling the shoulder blades down the back, curling those toes. Exhale your belly back. Float up to downward dog. There's your rest pose. Head is let go, shoulders are let go, knees are not locked, elbows are not locked. There's your breath. Eventually, maybe coming into a couple of breaths in child's pose just to give you a rest. Everyone can join us in child's pose. Eventually, up to you. Perhaps you're just stepping or hopping to the front of your mat from downward dog, or you're walking your hands and feet together to come into your forward bend. Maybe you have your props. You're going to inhale up to a halfway lift. Exhale to fold. Bend your knees, engage your belly. Inhale all the way up. Extended Tadasana. Namaste. Let that go, shake that out. I feel like we're probably pretty warm now. So from here again, take a sip of water if you need. When you're ready, just shake everything out, let it all go. And we're going to come to Tadasana. Then we're going to see how it feels to do eagle pose. Just with the legs for now. So from here, I'm going to stand up nice and tall. Again, if you need the wall, so if I have a wall, I can always have my back to the wall, okay? That's one possibility. Or if you want to try in the room, you can just have one hand close to the wall. Again, it's the standing leg that's going to be close to the wall so that you don't kind of fall into the wall. So either way, however you're going to work, or you can work into the room, you're going to stand up nice and tall in Tadasana. Bend the knees a little bit. And just like we did in the beginning, we're going to cross our thighs completely one over the other. Okay? If you're tall, you can probably bind your foot behind your calf. The really important thing here is there's no pressure on the knee. So I'm crossing the thighs, I'm not resting my leg on my knee. And I have short limbs, so binding isn't usually going to work for me. Or if you're a little bit tighter, that probably won't work either. But essentially, you're trying to cross completely over, and if you can, bind that foot basically around the leg. Okay? But that just doesn't work for my body because my legs are too short. All right, so we'll just try the legs for now. See if we can stay upright. If you're used to doing eagle pose, try and sit a little bit in eagle pose. And it's okay if your legs are coming apart, like, if your foot is coming away from you. I'm staring at me, so I'm not able to balance properly. Or if you're on the wall, again, you're crossing one completely over the other. Maybe you can sit a little bit more. You're trying to bind, but again, my body doesn't do that. And if you're on the wall, you can try the arms. So if my right leg is on top, my left arm comes up. Just like in the beginning, I cross my arms, one elbow over the other. So if my right leg is on top, my left arm is on top. Then I can let my elbows sit inside each other. Palms can touch and turn. But you don't need to worry about doing both all at once. But if you're used to this and you know it, then you can go ahead. So try one side, try the other. So crossing the thighs one completely over the other. And you can just stay with that if you wish. If you're finding it really hard to balance, you can always come back to Tadasana legs and cross opposite arm over top the next time, letting your elbows basically sit on top of each other and then turning to bring the arms. Again, if your shoulders are tight or your limbs are not long enough, you won't be able to come closer. You'll have to stay here. And this is the pose. But if you can touch and turn, then away you go. But not everyone can do that, that's okay. Maybe just giving yourself a hug if you're really tight. So listen to your body. We should be grateful that we can just move a little bit even. Or we can be grateful that we can move a little bit. There are no shoes. When it's enough, once you've worked evenly on both sides, let that go and shake that out. And then because our hips are nice and open, or we've tried to open them anyway, we can try Gomukasana or cow face pose as well, because we've also opened the shoulders. So before we get into cow face pose, what we're going to do here is similar to what we did on our back and then just now in the room, is we're going to cross one leg completely over the other. Okay, so I don't know if it's easier to see this way or the other way, but basically what I'm doing here is crossing one leg completely over the other. So my knees are almost sitting on top of each other like they were, like my elbows were when I did this, okay? So, and from here, we're just gonna enjoy that stretch, maybe slowly come back and forth a couple of times. Try one side, cross completely over. Try the other side, just a couple of stretches back and forth a little bit. And then to set yourself up for this pose, you may want a block or two. You may want a block under your bum. You may want an extra block handy. Or if you have a Zafu, or you can do both. Whatever works for you. I'll try both and see what happens. So basically what we're doing here is I'm crossing one leg completely over the other. And then I'm sitting up. Okay. Show you that from the other side as well. So all I've done here is I've crossed one leg completely over the other. And I've sat up. So they call this cow face pose because I guess if you look at it from above, the ears are your feet. Not really sure why, but that's okay. So give that a shot. I recommend props, especially if you're tight. You want to try and be as upright as possible. If this is a comfortable place for you, you can try to add the arms. You may need a belt. And so what you can do is place, so if my left leg is on top, my right arm will be up. So I will place the belt on my left shoulder. So I'll repeat that. If my left leg is on top, my right arm will be up, and I take that back, I'll put the belt on my right shoulder. So I'm basically lengthening my arm, bringing it back, lengthening my other arm and bringing it back. And might be able to hold my hands, but if I can't, I'll hold the belt. Okay, and I'll show you the arms. Don't stay too long on the legs. If it's enough, let it go. And if this really isn't working for you, you can always just do the arms standing in Tadasana and just not worry about the legs. Okay? Or you can go back to doing the legs on the floor, on your back instead, just like we did at the beginning. So listen to your body. So make sure you also try both sides. So if you're just doing the arms without the legs, then you're just standing in Tadasana, lengthen the arm up, holding onto the strap, lengthening the other arm, bringing it back. Maybe you can clasp your hands, but not from like reach, and coming into a back bend, because this actually isn't a back bend. Okay, you've already got enough twisting going on in the legs, and you don't want to make that too much. So if you're just doing the arms, that's what you'll do. If you're going to do the legs, again, crossing one leg completely over the other, and then coming back to sit on those props, or on your bum on the floor. Perhaps you're loose enough to do that. By all means, if you have loosey-goosey hips, go for it. I do not. So props are my friend. And sitting up nice and tall here. So whichever you're working with, make sure you work on both sides evenly. Maybe you just do the legs one side at a time. Maybe you're doing the arms one side at a time, whatever works for your body. And then eventually letting that go, letting the arms go, letting the legs go. And it might be nice to do a downward dog and then coming into pigeon pose, actually, just to stretch out a little bit. If you want, have your blocks handy in case you need them. So rolling the shoulder blades down your back, exhale your belly back, curl your toes, float up. Maybe bike pedal the feet a little bit. Maybe wiggle the tail. If it feels good for you, step one foot up, placing the knee down across the body. The heel comes into the groin area, and we're in a bit of an upward pigeon pose or prep for pigeon pose. So here's where you might want your blocks. I might want to give myself a little bit more height, just to feel like I'm in a bit more of a back bend. You can also pretend that you can reach. Oh, wow. Hey, look, today I can reach. You can pretend that you can reach the back foot. Maybe you can lift up the top arm. Maybe you leave it alone. And then eventually come into a forward pigeon. Again, maybe you need your blocks. Maybe the ground is not close enough. That's okay. Listen to your body. Only come as far as it's comfortable. Sometimes I like to just rest my chin in my hands or my face on my hands. Whatever feels good for you. Eventually, coming back into downward dog if that works for you from this pose. So hands under shoulders, weight evenly distributed into the fingertips and the wrists. Curl the back toe, exhale, engage your belly, and come back into downward dog. Again, maybe by curling your feet, wiggling your tail, whatever feels good. Coming into your version of dog, whatever that is right now. Maybe settling in for a breath or two into your full dog pose. And then eventually, the opposite leg crosses the comes across the mat. The foot comes into the groin. We start with an upward pigeon. Maybe you bring the back foot up. Maybe you reach it today. Maybe you don't. Maybe you bring that top arm into it. Maybe not. Woo! Listen to your body. Eventually, in your time, coming to that forward version of pigeon pose. Maybe using your blocks if you need to bring the floor closer to you. Maybe you rest your head on your hands or your blocks. Breathing here. Eventually, if you wish, coming from this into dog, if you want to transition to table first, that's okay too. So to come into dog, placing the weight into the fingertips as well as the wrist, keeping that back toe curled, toes curled. Exhale, engage your belly to come up. Coming into whatever version of dog feels good for you. Bike pedal, move around. When it's enough, rest in child's pose. Widen knees, toes together, reach forward. Head comes to the mat or a block or your hands or a cushion or a blanket. Hopefully you can get your heels on your bum on your heels. My body is not built that way, but if you can, please try. In your time, coming to a seat. We'll sit up nice and tall in Dandasana or staff pose. We'll exhale our belly back, tip forward, lead with our sternum, and come to Paschimottanasana or seated forward bend. If you need your belt, you can use it, but it might be nice just to bring the hands to the side because then you can just lead with the sternum and focus on the stretch. Again, a reminder, if Dandasana isn't working for you, you can bend the knees, you can let the legs be wide, listen to your body. Every day is different because it's not about getting to the toes, it's about having a nice flat back. Okay, so if you're rounding to get to the toes, that's not going to help you do your seated forward bend without putting a lot of pressure on your back. So breathing here. Eventually let that go. And we'll come into just a gentle twist. So coming into Supta Baddha Konasana. Again, if you wish, you can have blocks under your knees to give you some more support, or pillow or blankets or what have you. Sitting up nice and tall. Exhale your belly back and twisting to the right. Breathing here. Shoulder blades are still rolled down your back. Trying to gaze over your right shoulder if that works for you. On an exhalation, slowly coming to the other side. Breathing there. Eventually come back to center. You can always take the legs out if you need. Exhale and tip your right ear to your right shoulder. And then exhaling your left ear to your left shoulder. And then slowly release everything. Coming onto the mat. Bringing your knees to your chest and having a gentle rock from side to side. Head, neck, shoulders, everything comes with you. Move or stretch in any other way that you need before you lie back. If you wish, you can always place blocks, a bolster, blankets, pillows under your knees, or you can let your legs be long. Coming back down to the mat in your time to settle into resting pose. If you prefer to sit with me, you can. Otherwise, lying back and coming into your breath. Inhaling to fill your whole body from the tips of your toes to the top of your head. And exhaling to letting everything go. Release. Sighing out maybe that breath. Taking your time here to rejuvenate after your hard work. Inhaling to expand. Exhaling to release. Please feel free to stay in Shavasana as long as you wish. Being with each breath in each moment. And perhaps even coming back to the intention that you set for yourself in the beginning of your practice. Letting that resonate with you a little bit longer before you move on with your day. If you'd like to close your practice with us, inviting a deeper breath. Inviting some wiggling fingers and toes. An invitation to stretch, move any way that feels good for you. In your time, roll to your right side for a breath or two, using your arm as a pillow. And then using your arms to bring you to a seated position. With your eyes gently closed and your palms in namaste. The soul or light or divine in me honors the soul or light or divine in you. Namaste. I hope that you enjoyed your practice. If you have any questions or concerns, please feel free to type them in the chat. Otherwise, I look forward to seeing you again next day. Thank you so much.